All right, we're here with Corey Shuman, president, owner, founder of the Gold Rush Expeditions, and I've known him for a long time and watched what he did here. And so I'm just gonna, with that said, Corey, I'm just gonna turn it over to you and just kind of talk about Gold Rush Expeditions, how you formed it, why you formed it, and what it's grown into today, and then we'll go break off from some things from there.
All right, feel free to hop on when you want. So basically, Gold Rush was formed on the entire concept of preservation, which is it's exactly where it's at, but the whole idea was I was going out seeing more and more sites that 1 year were great, 2 years later were completely bulldozed and closed up, and I was like, what is there to do about this? BLM's idea was, hey, it's all mining trash, nobody cares, and it's a ton deeper than that I find out now, but you know, at the time I was just like, hey, I just want to see some of this stuff stay around so my kids have some cool stuff to go look at, because if there's nothing out there to look at, nobody wants to go out in the hills. I mean, we're having a hard enough time. Cell phones, blah, blah, whatever, but I'll digress. Yep. So that started the whole storm going downhill. So we started, arguing with the BLM on some sites and everything. And basically, our attorney Russ that we worked with for years was like, hey, the only way you're going to get any traction with this is to have some interest in what you're doing. So it's nice that you go out and say, hey, I don't want you to destroy this mine, but you have no ownership in it. So they go, that's cool. Thanks for letting us know. And they go backfill. It's like, you need to have some ownership in the land, and then, then you can actually make some headway. So that's when we started doing mining claims. And that sat for a little while. We sat on a lot of claims just because I didn't know what to do with them. But we had made a little precedent out in the Monarch mine, out in the flats. I'm trying to think the exact area where they've got the magnesium mines and everything. But basically,
here in Utah?
Yeah. But so I had a discussion with Russ about it, and he was like, well, they had sent us some letters that said, hey, you own this mill and mine out here, we're going to backfill it, we're going to close it up, it's a public nuisance, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, sweet, this is what we're waiting for. So we sent them a letter back that says, hey, you don't touch anything out there because this is our property, and anything that you do is going to have a negative impact on our mining activities out there, and we're going to sue you for anything. If you close up our mines and we can't get in, we're going to sue you for basically what we may have been able to get out of our mines. So figure out what that number is. And they BLM came back and said, basically, go ahead and sue us, have a party at it. So they sent us the information on when their contractors were coming up. I sat up there. The discussion that Russ and I had was, legally you can defend your claim up to and including deadly force. So how far do you want to push this? And I was like, well, where do I get arrested at? Is pretty much what I'm concerned at. And he was like, who knows? So I went up there, sat at the top of the mill there, just parked the truck on the top of the mill, put a rifle on my lap, and sat on the hood of the truck for a little while. And pretty soon a couple of trucks started coming up the canyon, and they stopped maybe a half mile down, and they got their binoculars out. I looked down there and tell they were doing something, but they sat there for a couple minutes, and one truck behind me turned around and left, and the other truck came up, and he's like, hey, we're supposed to be up here doing some reclamation, so, are you hunting up here or what? And I'm like, no, I'm defending my mining claim, and you're not doing shit up here. And he was like, yeah, it's not my thing, I'm just getting paid to get up here. And I'm like, I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying there's a good risk that, if you start touching some of my stuff, you might get shot. And he was like, I'm not getting into any of this. So he got his truck, turned around, he's like, BLM's going to freak out. And I was like, here it is. So BLM.
Man, I don't want to stop you too bad, but I knew you was a rebel rouser, but I didn't know you was that big a one.
So we got a letter maybe a week later from the BLM, and they said, hey, we're not going to reclaim this site, but you're 100% responsible for everything that's there. And I was like, no. That's not how it's going to work. So we went back and forth to legal, and basically we'll be responsible for the state it was in when we took it over from there up. If there's pre-existing mill tailings, other stuff that's, detrimental to the environment, not our problem. It was there when we got here. We'll return it to the same state as we got it. And they pretty much backed off and said, all right, whether they just didn't want to argue, whatever it was. So that's kind of started me on the tangent that I was like, all right, let's find cool sites that are in danger of being reclaimed. Let's put some claims on them, and we'll keep the rest of the BLM out, which then got us sitting on a whole bunch of claims, and then I started getting random calls because all the mining claims are all public record. I'm like, hey, you have this claim over here. Yeah? What do you want for it? No idea. How do you value? So that was where the eBay started. That I was like, it could be worth $50. It could be worth $5 million. I don't even know what it's worth. I don't even know how to value it. So let's throw it up on eBay. Let you make your own price on it. So that went for a while, and we started just kind of, we've got enough. Let's get into Utah. I was working for Raytheon at the time, so it was weekends. Jess and I were out, and we were hitting anything that had some sort of history, anything that had, any sort of something that was interesting. Let's go out and take a look at it. Let's see if there's anything there. Let's see if it's worth anything. If it is, let's put a claim on it. If not, we'll just document it and, keep that in another file, which is a whole other different story. But so eventually got to where we were doing well enough that Jess quit her job as a nurse. I quit Raytheon, and we started doing this kind of full time. And that started getting us into Arizona and California and Nevada and Montana and all these other places. And so much cool stuff out there, and so much that's just being erased so quickly too. I mean, stuff that will hit a year or two after it's been reclaimed that you're like, man, because we do a lot of looking at Google Earth before we go out and be like, there was a mill, there was buildings, there's all this stuff here. Now there is nothing. There is
and it's not only just the mining, but it's the old cabins that were out in the mountains. It's the I can remember some cool old cabins, some that was there cool to go see, and you go back there, there's not a trace of none of that.
Right. And they get knocked as that public nuisance that people are out there looking at them.
And the funny thing is that. Public nuisance or whatever, but man, if you or I take a metal detector and or even find an arrowhead or find anything older than 50 years old, we're in trouble, going to jail and everything else. Yet they're going out there and literally destroying the history of what happened out there.
Well, that makes it kind of interesting. So just total side note on that, but we've run into that a lot with Montana, is that, so that Antiquities law is really sketchy. It's supposed to be anything that's been in situ for over 50 years, or anything that hasn't moved has a value. But if it's been moved, it's been turned around, if they've backfilled over the top of a mine and moved everything that was over here to another spot over here, it's not covered by antiquity laws, and it's not something that the BLM guys will tell you or the rangers will tell you. It's something that you have to tell them, and they go, no, go ahead, arrest me. I'm here. Let's go. If you think it's going to hold up, I'll chat with my supervisor and I'll get back with you. But they will do it. We had a place up in Montana, super cool site. The BLM they had blown up. So 60s and 70s, there was very much this whole anti-mining, and I can kind of get into that a little bit. But Forrest Service guys were big fans, and you can tell when you find the mines, just going in, putting some dynamite, 20, 30 feet in, and then lighting that up and just blasting it. You'll see the mines because there will be, the portal will be intact, and then right behind it will be, which just doesn't naturally happen. Naturally, it's going to start from the front and go up. But that was an easy way to close these dangerous mines and keep people out of them. Anyway, they'd done this to this mine, but there was a bunch of buildings out in front of it, concrete pads. There was a cabin that had power and phone run up to it.
Really?
And this guy that bought it from us, old vet guy, he was probably 60, 65, all was fine until I get a call one day, and he's like, hey, I'm up here, I forget, Dillon or whatever, right close up there in Montana. He's like, and I just got chased off my mine at gunpoint by a ranger. And I was like, what? How? So he comes down because he lived in Arizona or New Mexico. So he's like, I'll come by, I'll tell you about it, I want my money back, this is it, da-da-da. And I was like, all right. So basically, he was up there cleaning up the site. There was a bunch of broken beer bottles and random stuff from people camping up there. Yeah. Just destroying it. He was cleaning up the area because he was really interested in the history of it, and working on getting back in line. Ranger comes up and says, hey, what are you doing? You're destroying the antiquities. You can't touch anything that's up here. This is all Forest Service property. You can't touch anything. And he's like, well, hey, this is my mining claim, and da-da-da. I bought it from Gold Rush Expedition. Oh, you bought it from Gold Rush? Well, you, buddy, because you're going to get off here. And he's like, I don't need to leave. This is my claim. And he said, that's when the ranger pulled the gun on him and said, hey, really? You're going to leave one way or the other, so decide how you want to do it. And he's like, and at that point, I was like, I'm not getting into this. I'm leaving. And so we ended up, we got him into another property, I believe, out in Colorado. But once we went up to that same Montana property, contacted the Helen Ranger District and was like, hey, what the hell? And they were like, oh, that must have been a misunderstanding. We don't have any record of that happening.
Really?
But it's just like, awesome. Well, we'll be up here. Here's the dates that we'll be up here. If you guys want to come up and chat with us, and go figure, nobody's up there to have discussions. But we see that a lot, especially probably the past 4 or 5 years, is there's always some BLM investigation or some Forrest Service investigation because they're just not down at all with what we're doing.
And I don't think that all of them play dirty, but some of them play dirty.
No, there's
this Bundy Ranch deal that I just found out about. Them BLM guys played dirty. I don't think it was the whole BLM. I think there was a small group in it. And so they are playing dirty with what you're doing and the people that have these mining claims. And I know that the Forest Service played dirty with June Blythe on his mining claim up on Hoyt Peak, where he spent over $100,000 doing core drilling and filing money, and they come up one day, kicked him off, took all his machinery off, and bulldozed everything over. Nothing he could do about it because he didn't fight for it like you do.
Well,
Probably didn't know the laws like you.
Gene and I had that discussion when he was doing it. We got pretty deep with the Forest Service there. It was an antiquity, so, that's why you couldn't be, okay, well, is there a treasure under there? Well, we don't know if there's anything else under there. Well, why did you not let them continue to mine then? Well, and it went back and forth till they're pretty much to the point, this was just the Forest Service, the USDA right here in Salt Lake, that they were like, look, what do you want to make this go away? But I had no interest in it except for helping June out at the time.
Right.
And I chatted with June and I was like, dude, you need to do something about this. Follow this up. Here it is. They're pretty much ready to cut you a settlement just to go away because they don't want to hear any more about it. But I don't think anything ever got followed up. And
terrible.
I didn't have as much as I can bitch and moan, if I don't have some interest in it, I can't follow it. Because they're like, whose mine is this? It's somebody else's. How come they're not here? Yeah, because they're done fighting with you. You've beaten them into submission and they don't care now. But it's totally the way it goes. I mean, and it leads to a side tangent. So these guys that work for me, I'm sure they have good fun with all the random stuff we find, but I'm always beating it into their head of if you look at the mining sentiment from the 20s, 30s, it started going down 1890s, but in that 20s, 30s, there was a definite concerted effort to push mining out. And after World War II, it was super, there is no mining stuff. And you look at the Bureau of Mines journals of all the reports that, pre-1940s, this mine looks awesome, they're getting this much ore out of it, lots of positive reports. If it sucks, they totally are like, Jim's not getting anything out, but he thinks he's going to get over here. You get your 50s, 60s reports, and they start getting a lot more, oh, this guy thinks he's going to mine some gold out of here, but we don't think there's any gold here. etc. You get in your 70s, and then they're really like, oh, there's no gold here. It's just tungsten and scheelite and da-da-da-da. So bit by bit, and we found a few of them, Helmut Doling, who did a bunch of Utah Geological Survey stuff, Logbox Elder. We chatted and interviewed with him in depth, and he was perfect. He's like, yeah, I worked for USGS for years. Anytime there was gold, it was leave it alone, no report, keep it out because we don't want that stuff getting out to the general random people. Report it as tungsten, report it as whatever else. And he's like, I've got tons of mines that have gold in them that, I can take you out and show you. And the discussion that he was looking for, he's like, hey, kind of pay me for these locations and, we'll go from there. And I was like, there's plenty of mines that we go in that have lots of gold in them. I'm not disputing what you say, but I'm not going to pay to go see the same stuff that we're seeing. And then just a couple months ago, we're working on this Independence mine up in Colorado. All been completely bulldozed out, but as I'm looking for information for the reports we're doing on it, I find this guy's name, and it comes up in his little book, and there's a picture of him like in the mine, chipping away at something from the early 80s, and his caption is, working on the gold vein I found at the Independence. Well, if you look at the geological reports of it, everything is, this was a lead and tungsten deposit, and there was very little gold, blah, blah, blah. But then you get older, and they talk about all the gold they started shipping. So it's like, okay, so they only found gold until, 1910, and then they continued to work for the next 50, 60 years for no gold, but they just kept doing stuff because they were dumb and they had unlimited funds or something. Well, this guy, Doc Ellis was his name, I ended up getting a hold of him, and I was like, hey, you were in this Independence mine, da-da-da. Is there gold in it? And he's like, well, yeah, it's all in my, open file USGS report. And my supervisor, had my head when I came back and was like, here's this mine, here's all the gold in it. And he was like, nope, that's not getting anywhere. That doesn't get in the report. It's like, we got a big fight about it. I was going to get his ass. And I was like,
wow.
Okay. And he's like, well, I'll send you maps. And he had a bunch of old vellum maps that he sent us of all the workings, where the gold veins were, and all the assays that they had pulled. And I was like, your open file report does not exist anywhere. I'm like, USGS does not have it, and they're supposed to have everything. I'm like, nowhere else. And he's like, it's open file. It should be out there. And he got up for this. I've been chatting back and forth with him, trying to get him down here to actually do like a in-person interview. But he's like, it's not out there. It doesn't exist. You're right. I've got copies of it. I'm going to bring you a copy down, and it's pretty. It's USGS, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool, because I would love to see that.
Wow.
But, it's definitely a concerted effort because more people, are out there finding stuff and finding all these gold mines, which I think is a lot of the lost treasure stuff, very much so, is that if you're out there doing your own thing, there's no way to keep track of you. There's no way to monitor you. It's every mine, and this is totally my own theory, but you look at these big mines that have these big mills out there, and then you look at the reporting, and they're like, how much money did this make? Oh, they made no money. They made no gold, da-da-da. It's like, okay, so they built this huge mine. They built a mill that probably cost them $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. You can see that it was processing stuff, but they made no money out of it. So that's what I'm supposed to understand. Don't buy it. Here's my whole theory, and I've had little bits, but nobody's really around that's done milling. But if you're out there, you don't want to get taxed on your stuff. If you've got a mill out there, you can go out and you can pretty much process yourself down to concentrates, make yourself some door bars that are maybe 75% pure, but any of those bars that you process and take off site, you're not going to be taxed on. So at the end of the year, when the tax man comes around and says, hey, how'd your mine do this year? How much money do you owe the government? You say, nothing. We didn't find any gold this year. And the only time you say you do find gold is when you're like, all right, we should sell this property. Let's find gold for the next 3 years and report it and go from there. But, a lot of these, there's so much money into them that it's ridiculous to look at it and be like, do you think everybody was stupid back in the day?
Yeah.
Just like, go ahead, let's spend some more money on something that hasn't produced anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally tangent diverted. But, so yeah, we got into Colorado, Montana, all these other places, and it's just been we've kind of evolved as a company as it's gone, where we would look at some smaller stuff as potential for smaller mining guys to get in and do something, but the biggest problem that we run into is a lot of these guys don't have capital to do it. And, for mining to be effective as mining, it needs to be a job. You look at Trebera, Mining Monster, all these others, they're doing it, they're running 724 and, pulling money out, and that's why they're pulling money out. You get all these small guys that get a little claim and they get a little bit of, hey, there's some gold in here. Okay, you need to work that like a job. You need to work that 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, and you need to start producing. You can't just go out, I went out in July for a weekend and picked some gold up. Here's my gold in a little bucket. Well, no wonder you're not making any money out of it because you're not working it like a job.
Right.
If you work it like a job, you're going to be just as successful as you are at a job. And that's what people used to do, but now it's just like there's so many regulations and weird things that people don't understand. So that's kind of where we've got to now, is helping people understand, one, and two, getting larger documented sites, and it gets larger companies that are interested in what we're doing. And then the people that are ready to do mining, it sounds bad, but we're turning some people away when they call and I say, hey, this mine's so cool, I'd like to get it. And say, do you have any capital to develop it? Or, not saying that I don't want to sell it to you, but I don't want to sell you a mine for $100,000 and have you be out of money and not be able to do anything with it. You sit on it for 5 years, it lapses, and I'm going to go back there and reclaim it again. But if you don't have money to develop it, it's going to be no benefit to you. It's a waste of your money.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are like, what the hell? I'm offering you money. But it gets that same thing. I think people start to perceive, when there's enough people that own these smaller mines that don't ever make money out of them, that they're just worthless. But they're not doing anything to
They're not doing what they need to
develop
do.
them.
You said something just a minute ago that you do help people file their mining claims if they've got problems with the BLM. Do you have a service where you take care of that? People can get
totally do, and it's
awesome. Because I'm sure that happens a lot. People have problems with the Forrest Service and they don't know what to do, and you've handled it a lot.
It's a good and a bad. So we'll go from just communicating with the BLM, the Forest Service, to full on doing your notice of intention, notice of operation. But we'll get pushback sometimes, when it's not us, or we'll see the claimants get pushback. And then we'll step in and, we've been called all sorts of names. California, some dude at the California BLM so we've got an obsidian claim that has this royal purple obsidian. Well, the BLM claimed in the 70s that basic normal obsidian was not a locatable mineral, but if it had some specific special qualities, whatever, then it was a locatable mineral. But this is specifically, it's defined as royal purple obsidian. This is the only place that it can be found. But so we had a customer that bought it, and she calls up the BLM and said, "Hey, I want to get my notice of operations in place. I've got my paperwork." And she said this guy just went off, BLM or Gold Rush just totally screwed you. This isn't even locatable. They're such scammers.
Really?
And we've had this happen. We had this happen in Utah, and we kind of put them in check. But she calls up and chat with her, and I'm like, all right, do you have the person's name? Could you get them? Could you get them to let you record a call? So sure enough, she calls back, chats with the same guy, and he was just dumb enough to just, they're a bunch of dicks. They don't know what they're doing. They're just screwing people and da-da-da. And so she sends that over, which, then ends up it's a quick call to his supervisor to say, hey, is this how you guys are doing business? Because, I don't necessarily want to get into suing you guys for slander, but here's the call, and it's pretty cut and dry. What do you want to do with it? And it's hey, we'll take care of this, and it won't happen again. We had it happen in Arizona a couple of years ago. But it's just grasping at straws. The one that got them in trouble was there was a tungsten mine out there, which had, produced gold up into the 30s. And then when they had all the tungsten subsidiaries, hey, if you've got a tungsten mine, we'll pay you to mine it. Suddenly it became a tungsten mine. But it had been worked on and off into probably like the early 90s. And we went up there, filed claims on it. It's called the Boreana. And the guy that bought it called up the BLM to start getting his operations in place. And the guy's like, I don't know if that's a valid claim. I don't even know that you can claim something because it's historical and stuff, and just totally. So
and they probably push people a lot that way to get people not knowing. So that's a canned response probably to people.
Well, so it was the same thing. We were actually down in the area, so we stopped by. It was right outside of Phoenix, and was like, "What are you guys telling people? Oh, what do you mean? We're not telling people that. Here's what." Well, maybe it is. I'm like, did you guys give us a claim on it? Did you check the land status? You guys gave us a number on it. Oh, yeah, I guess we did. So then why are you screwing with my people that are calling you up? Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry once. The next time it happens, we'll see you in court. Oh, okay. So
I remember one time ago, when they was trying to close that area in Montezuma or in Johnson's Canyon, what people think could have been Montezuma's treasure caves or whatever. It's a great story, a great historical thing, and they was trying to close it or backfill it or do something with it. And you went down, because I went down there, and you went down and met with them and fought them, and they didn't talk about it.
Yeah, they ended up kind of back. So that was one of the, we've been playing the treasure hunting game, you and I, back and forth for years at that point, but that was one of those super interesting stories that once we got wind of it, I was like, how is this even possible? How do you do this? Oh, it's on a national monument, so you can't forget about it. They just do whatever they want. And that was, I was like, there's got to be something. And that was when we got old with Kanab City, so that whole thing, I won't digress. I'll keep it in a timeline. So basically went down there, met with the Staircase Escalante people down there, and their intent was, these are so dangerous. Joe's dog fell down in there and it died. Did Joe's dog really fall down there and die? Well, maybe, or maybe he got it out with the rope. We're not really for sure. So, and they got so much bad publicity from it that I think they were just like, fine, leave it alone. Of all the things we're going to do, this is, we'll just let this one slide, and they're still open down there. Then I know that the road is a administrative access only. road, but I know there's plenty of people that go, it's public lands, right? It's your public lands, it's not their public lands. But that instigated, so that whole shitstorm, we did our annual spring safari, and that kind of killed off our annual spring safari, because basically what happened is we put in our RMP, is that right? Basically a permit so we could be down there camping on the land, saying that we were having people out and that we were going to be doing stuff, and got everything set together. We'd been chatting with the BLM guys down there, totally cool guys, and Memorial Day was when it was supposed to happen, and like the week before, I want to say it was like the Tuesday before that Monday, one of the guys we'd kind of made good friends with called me up and he was like, dude, you cannot hold this event on that weekend. He's like, they're going to deny your permit. It's going to come through like Wednesday or Thursday, but you can't do it. He's like, if you show up, they're ready and raring. They're going to be down there with law enforcement, and it's going to be a huge shitstorm. And I was like, I can't cancel it at this point. I got people coming in. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. And he's like, well, you got your heads up. You're probably going to get hit as soon as you come down there. We've got all your details of what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, awesome. This is going to be fantastic. So we roll into Kanab, and I shit you not, as we get into service, my phone starts ringing. And pick it up, and it's some BLM Ranger guy. And he's like, hey, I need to talk with you about it. And I was like, that's what I hear, but I need to get down and get some porta shooters right over the border there in Fredonia. So, and he's like, I know, I'm already down here. And I was like, sweet, well, I'll see you in a few minutes then. So we show up, we send the rest of the people off. Floyd was already set up camp up there, but go down, he's down there, and I had a girl with me that was doing like stories on, public activism, blah, blah, blah. She's super fired up, but the guy's being relatively pretty nice, and he's like, hey, I have to find you for today. I have to cite you for being down here for today. And he's like, I have to cite you for every day you're down here. So, if you were down here and you weren't where you said you were going to be camped, and I came up here tomorrow and I didn't see you, I would assume that you'd canceled your event and left. And I was like, well, I'm not canceling my event and I'm not leaving. And he's like, you're missing my point. Long story short, this girl Erin was giving him a rash. She's like, so are you kicking us off public lands? He's like, no, easy. But basically, once I finally got, he's like, there is a campground that is on private property. And if you were there, you'd have room for everybody that's there, and you'd have bathroom facilities and everything you need. But I wouldn't see you, and I would assume you were gone. And I was like, ding, I see where you're going with that. So, we got fined for the day that it was, but I decided I was taking it to court. There was no way that, I was just going to let that slide. And the day that we went to court, so we'd done a bunch of discovery and found out that the BLM had pulled all sorts of... So my friend that was with the BLM, I had been chatting with him, and I was like, hey, we're going to do a huge discovery on everything that's going on with this. And he's like, cool. So when our attorney asked him for a discovery, he dumped all his emails into this discovery, which he probably caught a rash from, but there was like, what is this Forrest Service guy doing? Da-da-da. Who's pulled his record? Let's pull his record. Oh, look, he's got these, he's got a couple things on his record. He might be violent and dangerous and da-da-da. Like, shit that they're not allowed to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we show up down there to St. George, the federal court down there, and there is BLM trucks up and down the street. Like,
really?
Probably 20 trucks. And I'm just like, whew, this is interesting. So we go in, and unfortunately, we ended up paying the fine, but got the charges dropped. But we go into the courtroom, and the whole back sitting room is all BLM agents. And I was like, I walked in, and I was like, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail for a while. This is so uncool. But the judge does his thing, gives us our fine, and we leave. And there was one guy that was a law enforcement agent that I made kind of a good rapport with, and we were in Cedar City when he called me. He was like, hey, are you still down here now? And I was like, no, we're actually up in Cedar City. He's like, I'd kind of like to chat with you a little bit, but I don't want to do it over the phone. When are you going to be back down here? And I was like, I ain't got shit else to do today. I'll turn around. I got a couple hours to kill. So I went down, stopped back by his place, and he's like right there in the Kanab area, but we had a few beers, and he's like, interesting, right? And I'm like, super not interesting, super not cool at all. And he's like, it's been handed down for the past week and a half since we knew you were coming to court that all the BLM law enforcement officers needed to be down there to see what you were driving, who you were with, and what exactly you look like, because we don't want you down out on public lands. And I was like, because why? Because I'm doing stuff to try and promote mining? He's like, exactly. There's no mining in America anymore unless you're a huge corporation. I'm like, I totally disagree. I don't think that is the case at all.
Wow. So this BLM thing from the Bundys, it's gone from a ways and it gets deeper. They do whatever they want.
They don't have anybody that oversees it. And Forrest Service is the same thing. You're like, all right, you screwed me on this, so I'm going to go talk to your boss, who is who? Nobody. Who you going to go talk to the Department of Interior? Yeah, who do I talk to there? Nobody.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's really no oversight. When you see, like, some of the, I know there was a bill a couple of years ago about disarming BLM agents and letting law enforcement, do their job. And it's like, nobody questions why these BLM agents have just been like, hey, we need a lot of guns and stuff, and we need, these big armored personnel carriers. Nobody's done anything about this. They've just let it fly. So, why did they need these in the first place?
Wow.
But I mean, we've heard justification. I've got a criminal attorney who's really good, and he knows a bunch of people. But in some of the discussions that we've had, he's like, yeah, all these BLM guys, they won't even go out, in BLM trucks or in their BLM gear because they'll get shot at when they're out in the hills.
Really?
And I was like,
wow.
Well, that should probably give them an idea that what they're doing is probably not, looked upon very well by the public. I mean, I'm not saying to shoot these guys, but they're obviously eliciting a pretty heavy response there if that's what's happening. Because I'm like, I rarely get shot at. So if these guys, are concerned about it all the time, then they're probably pissing off a lot more people than I am. So interesting side.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I appreciated about you, Corey, is that you took a stance. You didn't mind getting in trouble. You did what it took to protect things, to save things, and what you believed in, because not many people will do that, and you do that.
Well, I couldn't tell you why. It's just one of those things that it's just, and as it's gone, it's just grown and it's grown and it's grown. I think, over the years, it's just, I've learned more and more and more, and I'll have discussions with, like we were discussing Barrick. I've had discussions with their geologists and a couple of guys that were out at Cortez that were, head mining geologists. We took them to a couple of mines that were just right outside of Winnemucca that they were looking at and they were like, why is this out here? Why does Barrick not own this? This is awesome. This is huge. And it's like, because you guys don't know about them. They've been held by small companies for forever, and you have no way to get into them. And, you guys have bigger fish to fry. But, I mean, Barrick is the perfect example of that small company thing because they were a Canadian JV group. And they started out and they bought that mine from Newmont that Newmont said, Cortez completely worked out. There ain't nothing out here. You're buying the land. So, here's your 600 acres for $1 million. Have a party. And 20, 25 years later, Barrick is like, oh, gotta post $7 billion in cash this quarter. That's, yeah. And at that point, they've written off everything they can. Can we give anybody else a bonus? Yeah, okay. All right, how much is left over? All right, we're getting taxed on that. It is what it is.
Yeah, well, we were just talking, that I've seen that you posted or had for sale some property for Tuscarora area in Barrick. And when you said that, because I haven't actually been there. The company I work for has done some stuff there, and I thought, how the heck did Corey get something up there? Because
no, when we were doing all the research, because we've really stepped up the game. So now, I don't know how familiar you are, but I shouldn't even say years ago. Canada is still way big into the mining, which is, a great thing, but they like to do it down here in the U.S. And to get any sort of publicly traded company, they have to do what they call 43101, which is basically a full geology report of the mine and the history and how much it's going to cost to run it and 25 to 100 grand is usually what it costs, and it has to be done by a certified geologist, which I could totally go on for days about geologists, but that's basically what they need to start raising money. Part of what Barrick did back in their day. But these reports, like I said, they're huge, they're expensive, so I started looking at them and going, all right, what's contained in these reports? So we've taken the full format of everything that's in them, and we can fill them in top to bottom on the bigger properties that we've done. Here's everything, here's all the geology, and it's just pulling from various different sources, and then from our survey on site of saying, okay, They say this is this, and this is going on here, and this is going on here, and these tunnels are here, and there's a vein here. We've been in there. Here's the vein. Here's pictures of it. Here's exactly what it looks like. So we can take kind of a double validation, but it's just one of the things we're doing on every property. So
cool.
When you occasionally, because it always comes up with like, claims $212. Why would I pay you? Our Illinois mine that we've got out in Nevada. Why would I pay you $3.8 million for that? And it's like, because you missed it the first time around. It's a one-of-a-kind property, and it's got documented. We've seen the reserves in it, and here's a historical report that says there's $40 million in reserves that are ready to go like that. Here's where it is. Here's a picture of the reserves that you just need to start processing.
Yeah.
So and that's where it gets into kind of some of the treasure. I look at it as kind of these treasure stories because they're very much the same thing. There's so many mines that have these same little stories. There's a Carmelita that we've got in Arizona that I found out about it from a friend who had been like, hey, this Carmelita area is going to be coming up. I think people have died that owned it. Check it out. So we got in on it that first year. So claims, they lapse and you don't catch it for like 4 or 5 months. We went up there, checked the area out, and it was super cool. There's this shaft that cuts down, and you can see the drift levels as it goes down. It's this big open monster, and you can see where people have put old pieces of rail across this 400-foot shaft, and then attempted to walk across it. And I'm like, man, stay alive is just nothing. It's survival of the fittest. If you're dumb enough to be like, let's totally walk that rail, and you fall, then you're just too dumb to be around.
Yeah.
But basically, long and short history of it was that one of the big Arizona congressmen back in the 1800s, turn of the century, had found this mine, located it because the Indians had been working it. He was married to this lady, Carmelita, so he named the mine after her. He decided to get a new mistress, left the mine with her, because I guess, for whatever, she was like, I'm going to out you as being a philanderer and everything else. He was like, okay, go. But she worked out on this mine from, turn of the century, 1900, to 1918, when she started getting a little old and senile. But she had a group of 250 Indians that would go out during the day, and they would go work their stuff in the mine, and then they would come back, they would crush it down, Maris does, and she would feed and house everybody that was there.
Wow.
And I was like, man, this lady's making a pile of money. That is a lot of people, and it's all documented, exactly.
Wow.
Here's all the guys, and I was like, this is awesome. Well, 1917, I think it was, some guy that got in, somehow, there's no real thing of how you can make the personal relationship. This guy comes in and tries to prove that she's mentally insane, mentally incompetent. She's got all these weird Indians out there digging in gold mines, gets her put in a sanitarium in Phoenix, and tries to take over the mine, starts raising money on it. Long and short, she gets back out and ties him up in court for, thousands and thousands of dollars. But by the time he gets kicked out, we're talking World War II starting to kick in, so you're into the 40s by this time. She dies, it gets kept in the family, but nobody ever does anything with it. But anyway, while we're there, there's a part of an old mill foundation there that they had some machinery on that is, Carmelita, 1918. That's
really?
This is when dude raised his money and was trying to get out there and get people
going
on this. But, it's one of those that, you just need to get down and get into it. There's assays on it, that are 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces at the surface of gold. So it's there's obviously gold here. It's free milling, it just needs to be crushed up. But why is nobody out here? So, and then the why is just because, it's the same you and me. All right, what's it going to cost to get this up and running?
Right.
We ballparked it, probably a mil 5 by the time you're permitted and you're fully going out, because you have all these oh, you're going to drive on a dirt road. Okay, well, you have to have dust abatement because you're going to be raising dust with your trucks that roll out. It's you're in the middle of the desert. Nobody if you raise dust, but that's something you have to pay for nowadays. So I liken it to my Aston Martin DBR1 has been the most recent thing. So one of the more expensive cars that's ever been sold, but one of the ones was found in a garage, completely junked out. The guy spent, I don't know, $6 or $7 million on restoring it, and then ended up selling it at auction for $22 million.
Wow.
But you look at it, it's okay, if I found that car out in somebody's garage and I can buy it for $50, am I going to get $20 million out of it? No, I don't have $6 million to put into restoring it. So, that's the same thing with the mines is, if you don't have the money to get into it and get them up and rolling, then they are still kind of, they can be worthless holes in the ground. But on the small guys, we see a lot too where, so there's a mine out in Nevada, I won't drop the name because it'll probably get a bunch of people running out there, but it's got a big wide vein. The entrance is kind of sketchy, but it's got a big wide quartz vein that's just shot through gold, the whole thing. It's just, and when I say the entrance is sketchy, the lady that owned it had a pseudo-hostile takeover from a corporation, blasted all our portals, and then was basically shooing people off with shotgun whenever people came up, and people stole her equipment. But the portal where she blasted, behind it was a little bit softer rock, and over the years it just kind of collapsed down. Mm-hmm. So there's a little spot that you can get down in, and you get down in, and it's all dirt and weeds up above you, and that you're like, shh, sketchy. But then you get down into the tunnel, and this is where I've taken a couple of these guys that, you get into it, and then you see the vein, and one of the guys actually drilled for Barrick that was down in there, and he's looking on this side of the wall, and the drift kind of cuts this way, and he's like, look at that! That is freaking gold right there! Look at that! And I'm like, dude, look the other way, and he looks, holy shit! Woo! But we've had people go in there and just get, 20, 30 pounds of samples, just chip it out of the rock, and then they take it to rock show, and they're like, I can sell this for double spot value all day. Just
really? This
shot through quartz.
Wow.
Well, sweet. Buy it then.
Yeah, really.
But, the stuff's still out there all over the place, which is the crazy. That's the one that gets me.
So, I want to talk about a long time ago. You made a statement to me, and at the time you made it, I thought, "Man, Corey, you're an idiot. Why would you say something like that?" And it was, you pack your trash in, you pack it out, leave no trace that you've ever been there. And you said a comment to that. I thought, whoa, Corey's right. So talk about your theory and your thoughts on that.
So my theory is the whole, pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace, take away footprints, or take away pictures, it's really just a whole propaganda machine. If you look at, you're like, oh, who's steering this? It's all BLM, public lands, everybody, keep your lands pristine, stay the trail. Stay the trail is one I despise just because they're so mindless, and they're like, you gotta go on this trail. And it's like, you realize the trail you were on was cut by some old miner that didn't care where he was going. He just said, I need to get up there, and I've got a wagon and a horse, so what is the path of least resistance?
And I know a guy that got a ticket for having his horse off the trail.
Which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
It makes no sense at all. But it's the pack it in, pack it out. So, all these from the time of Indians, if you had this whole pack it in, pack it out, you would have none of these church fields, you'd have no arrowheads, you'd have no anything to look at, because Indians would have been like, oh, don't want to leave a mess over here. Why impact the environment? Because it runs all the way up to, your Spaniards writing on walls, to Indians writing on walls, to miners, leaving caches of gold in places, leaving just their trash wherever. We look at it now, you find a cool dynamite box that's 100 years old, and you're like, this is legit, or, a candle box, or an old miner's lantern, and guaranteed they weren't like, oh, should I put this in my recycle bag? Should I take this down the mountain and put it at the dump? No. They don't care. It doesn't matter, so it's just, psh. And there's not enough people out there that are really going to make a difference. So, a water bottle, which, is the common argument that I'll usually bring up. It's ugly, it sucks, but it's going to degrade. Who knows? Maybe it's going to take 100 years for that water bottle to degrade. But how many water bottles, when you're out, how many are you like, geez, it's a water bottle fiesta out here. There's not a lot. But it's one of those things that, it might be 100 years from now that maybe those water bottles are cool for some reason. We have no idea. Maybe the beer bottles are cool for some reason. I'm a big fan, and it's no joke to anybody that's been out that if we're out, I'll have a few beers, and I'm a big fan of taking my little bottle and finding a short little branch on something and sticking it on a branch so that bit by bit the branch will grow. And then my intent is, maybe in the future, because I'll try and hide away pretty good, but 50, 75, 100 years from now, somebody is like, Bud Light, born on date of 2013, holy shit, this is awesome, because it's 100 years old. Yeah. And they find it up in a tree, and it's just, all these things get left behind, but we're in this whole societal mindset of any trace that we leave of ourselves is some sort of sin. So that's why it's so difficult to build on mining claims. Like you look, what was the huge impact of people, if you take just 1850 to 1976 when they kind of banned people being able to live on their claims. What was the big problem that was going on? Was there a lot of bad stuff going on? Was there crazy people living in the hills? There's really no detriment at all, except for, the BLM was like, hey, these guys they're living on our land out here. And, you look at it now and like there's going to be no trace. I mean, stuff can only last so long. Wood cabins, other stuff, if they're not destroyed, they can only last so long. But nobody's allowed to do anything anymore. So, like, there's a couple of big mines. I'm trying to think of some right off the top of my head. But these mines, they'll pit mine them now, these big, huge mines, and then they'll cover them up and make them a grassy field by the time they're done. There's no history. There's no anything else there. And I guarantee you, even if you take something like Mineral Park is down in Arizona. Big, huge copper mine. I mean, it's not Kennecott size, but it's pretty good size that way. It's shut down. They're working on doing a full reclamation of it. They've got their nice little BLM pictures of like, oh, look, it's going to look like this. And it'll just be like, just like it started. And it's like, to what end? You're out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to look at out there. So what? You're going to make another bland canyon with some sagebrush that looks exactly like every other canyon out there?
Yeah.
You're this cool historic
Yeah,
thing.
whereas 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, that people, they'll look and see, whoa, look at them primitive guys did,
They dug this huge hole. And
Why? There's probably a flying saucer lived in this hole here, probably. Yeah. They won't get that opportunity now because it's covered.
Totally. Yeah, it just destroys so much of us having anything in here. I've had this discussion with my daughter too, of like, because she's not into the mining or anything, but I'm like, 100 years from now, nobody's going to know that this generation was actually here, that we did anything. They're going to be like, well, what happened out in the land from, 1960 to, I don't know, to when World War IV started? Well, nothing apparently, because there's nothing out here to show there's anything out here. And like, every civilization is going to fall. I mean, eventually the U.S. will fall, and there's going to be no history out there in the fields or anything else. When people go, like in Russia, you go out and you look out in the tundra fields and they find stuff from 300 years ago, and they're like, hey, look, people were living out here. Guaranteed 300 years from now, they're probably not going to be out in Utah's West Desert going, hey, people were living out here. Anything that's left now is going to be, even when you take it to like old rolled over vehicles that the BLM so, we got to junk all those. Those are freaking cool. There's no reason to shoot at them, which for some reason people like to that car, I should shoot it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at it now, and even when you find a 40s, 50s car out there, you're like,
yeah.
Oh, look at that. That is rad.
Yeah.
Look, it's still got the speedometer in it. Awesome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's, I mean, maybe don't trash things on purpose, but where do you draw the line? And, maybe let people do what they're going to do. The small, limited number of people that are out in the wild, I mean, I know that's the usual argument is like, well, what if everybody threw a water bottle? Well, then there'd be a whole shit pile of water bottles, but not everybody's out here and not everybody's throwing water bottles. So,
Yeah, it's not like you're saying, go dump all your trash off on the side of the road in the big pile of trash. But back in the old day, they did that. They dumped their trash in a ravine, and people, that's treasure to people nowadays.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could take it one further and just say, all right, if you're going to have some random stuff, then burn it on your way out. But I mean, we've got to the point where we can't even do that. It's like, fire restrictions are in place. And it's like, why are there fire restrictions in place? There used to be all the campfires and everything was fine, and we didn't have these big brush fires. It's more public lands management of, we can't burn any of this. We got to protect all this. This is all wilderness. We got to all keep this out here. So the undergrowth builds up and builds up and builds up for 20, 30 years with, Smokey and his little make sure your campfire's out. And suddenly, anything that catches is going to be a huge tinder bomb because that's all that's left out there anymore is all this timber from the last 40 or 50 years that hasn't burned off like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So, it's how much do you let people manage what's out there and how much do you let yourself manage what's out there? And government manages a lot for us and not very well in some cases.
Well, I just want to say one, I want to appreciate the things that you was doing, because like I said before, not a lot of people have the guts or the even to stand up against the BLM or the Forrest Service or whoever, and you didn't, and thank you.
Well, at the end of the day, they're supposed to be working for us, and that probably I can segue that into a short little maybe interesting bit, maybe not interesting bit, but we catch a little bit of flack for our National Bureau of Mines segment, which is kind of a sister company to Gold Rush. And I touched on it for a minute, but basically the intent is, so 1994, the guy that was heading up the U.S. Bureau of Mines was giving all this testimony about, how lead really wasn't bad for people. Lead wasn't destroying anybody, and because, they were on the bender of like, lead poisoning and it's the Orem thing, Can you prove lead killed people? No, but can you prove lead didn't kill people? No. Okay, so then lead's bad. But anyway, he's given all this dissertation before Congress, and it was a couple of day thing. There's videos here and there of it, and he's eating these little candies the whole time that he's, doing this discussion. At the end of his wrap up, his closing argument, he's like, just so we're clear, what I've been eating here, just little lead pellets. You've seen me eat them the whole time. It is what it is. I'm not dying. I'm not going to get cancer. Everything is fine. Huh. And Congress lost their shit. Everybody was screaming and yelling, and the Bureau of Mines got disbanded soon after that. Part of the EPA took over a bit of it, and some they just completely got rid of. Clinton soon after did the repeal of any patented mining lands where they put a moratorium on that. But it was kind of like hey, you know what? The U.S. is so advanced that we don't need to mine anything anymore. We're that far advanced. Let the poor countries mine for us. So we don't even need this Bureau of Mines anymore. But, they were the only ones that were trying to do any, history of what was going out there. You find the old, 1900, 1920s reports, and you can just read them, and you can read that this guy was just wandering around, stopping in at Jim's mine and saying, hey, dude, what's going on? I'm from the Bureau of Mines. What's going on in your mine? And dude would walk them through the mine, and they'd talk all about it, and have a nice report about it, and you had all this history. Well, going back to the history thing, we'd go out and see like a reclaimed site, and I'd be like, all right, I have a Bureau of Mines report here that says, how big this was, how deep it was, what they were producing, blah, blah, blah. And now we come over to it, and it's a foundation and a depression in the ground, so it's pretty much nothing. So, it's kind of interesting to compare what's here to what's here, in 2005 or whatever.
Yeah.
So when I say, we go out and survey a lot of mines, every mine that we look at that we don't, put a claim on, which is usually quite a bit of them because some just suck and they're just, there's nothing to be out there. But we'll document it, here's the GPS, here's where they're at, here's all the pictures of it, here's what it looks like, here's, what's inside, here's what's not. And that goes into this big National Bureau of Mines database, which has gotten considerably good. There's 2 rack servers in there that just do nothing but keep that data. But the intent is that will come up at some point when we get a little bit of free time. That will come up and just be a huge repository that people can just go and look and say, all right, I'm at this coordinate, what was here? And my intent is that we'll be able to say, okay, we visited this mine in 2005, and we came back and saw it in 2015 or 2020 or 2025, and here's what it looked like, here's how it improved, here's how it degraded, here's the state of it. And we'll just get a huge repository of all the U.S. mines that people can look at and say, hey, so there's a little bit of history here.
That's a database you're putting together?
Yeah, that's one that we put together. We call it the National Bureau of Mines, which was a very pointed dig at the U.S. Bureau of Mines. But occasionally we'll get the hater groups that isn't anything. It's like, oh, you guys aren't the National Bureau of Mines. They were disbanded. And it's like, you don't understand what we're doing. You don't understand why we're trying to do it. So I'm not even going to argue with you about it. So
that's awesome.
But I mean, I think that'll be even more than what we're doing with Gold Rush. I think that'll be our legacy piece that will live on way past us. Is here's all these mines, and it might be that back in 2020 you used to be able to just go out on public lands and look at stuff, and you didn't have to have a permit or a BLM guide to take you out there.
Yeah.
Look, these guys just went out and looked at stuff, and here's what it looked like because. You know how important pictures are now. I mean, you find pictures from turn of the century, and they vanish so quickly.
Yep.
But who knows what there will be with the digital age? But we'll have a good documenting of at least what all the mining stuff is, for better or for worse.
Cool. Well, Corey, man, I appreciate you spending the time talking to me, telling me what you've been up to, because I've lost contact of you. You've done some amazing things.
I keep watching your stuff too, because I'm very intrigued that. The treasure is what started me, and that was what got into the mines, because that George Thompson book, and that everything was, hey, there's this treasure here, and there's this treasure here, and you get out in that area, and it's a mine. I'm like, there's a correlation. all of his lost treasure stories correlate with some sort of mine somewhere, something out here. So, and that was when it was like, all right, why is this stuff getting destroyed? Does nobody else understand the value of what's happening? Am I the only person that understands it, or am I just the only person that thinks there's value? Maybe.
Well, I think he was the only one that had the courage to do something about it to protect this stuff, because it was getting destroyed by our government, and so thank you. So I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave at the bottom in the descriptions, a link to your website, your YouTube channels. You got all kinds of YouTube videos on the mines and stuff that you have been done. I see that you got a ton of videos out there. So I'm going to leave a link to your YouTube channel, and if anybody, needs advice or whatnot, I'll turn them over to you.
Hopefully, yeah.
Corey,
you can help with.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks. That's a wrap.